Every day when I come into my office, there's a 8x10 black and white photo that captures my attention. 13 kids pensively looking at the camera. It's my entire elementary school. I look at that photo every day when I come in because it reminds me of what's important. You see, I grew up in a little corner of the world in East Africa, a country called Tanzania. My father was an island evangelist where he traveled from island to island in Lake Victoria, preaching the gospel. Many of those tribes the government didn't even know existed. So the best schooling option for me was to go to this one-room boarding school in a little corner of Africa that you can't find on a map. 13 kids, 7 different nationalities, 1 teacher. You see, my elementary school teacher I had for all 5 years of my primary school years, and she taught for 30 years in that little one-room schoolhouse in that little corner of Africa. She never got married. She never saved up a whole lot in her 401k. She never got Teacher of the Year. So you can imagine what it was like when American Thanksgiving rolled around. In those dark African nights with the kerosene lamp burning, cicadas singing in the trees, and she was alone. Or when Christmas rolled around, or Easter, you know deep inside she must have questioned, is it really worth it? Is it worth the sacrifice? When I entered university in the United States, I was a soccer player, but I'd made a silent vow deep in my heart during my teenage years that there was no way I was going to make the same mistake my father had made, or my elementary school teacher. You see, I was going to leave my mark on the world, and someone was going to know who I was. By the time I got into university playing soccer, that was my avenue. By my sophomore year, I was very successful. People were whispering in my ear saying, "You got the gift, son. You need to play professionally. This is an opportunity for you to proclaim Christ's message professionally." But I knew it was all about me. One day my father called up and said, "Someone's here to see you. She's driven all the way from Florida, 2 days." I said, "Well, who is it?" He said, "It's your elementary school teacher." I said, "Dad, how am I going to see her in front of all my buddies?" "Son, she's driven 2 days and she wants to eat lunch with you." So I got there early to the cafeteria, tried to get through the line before anybody saw me, went to the back, and she had this little black book that she opened up. And in that book were listed the names of all 13 of my classmates. Some were older, some were younger. She told me what they were doing with their lives, and at the bottom she had this phrase, how they were investing their lives in light of eternity. So she turns to the last page, and there's my name, and she says, "Daniel?" And the memories kicked in. I sat up straight and paid attention. She says, "Daniel, how are you going to live your life in light of eternity?" Now, if you remember that silent vow, I knew that I had to tell her the truth, but I could never lie to the lady, and so I kept quiet. I never answered the question. It was a painful, awkward silence. As I escorted her to her car to leave, she had a pained look of sorrow on her face. I was one of her best and brightest, and she realized that right now I was living my life for myself. You know, it was that night, all alone in my dorm room, dark, kneeling down by my bed. At 19 years old, that's when the Holy Spirit pierced my heart through and through, sorted out my priorities in light of eternity, and asked God, "Please, God, if you be so good, I'd like to live my life in light of eternity, just like my elementary school teacher or like my dad." That lady went on to eternity 2 years later. I didn't realize it, but she was crisscrossing the United States and Canada trying to touch base with as many of her former students as she could. She wanted to challenge them with that same question, how are you living your life in light of eternity? She wanted to cement her legacy. You know, when we all get to heaven, you're going to find a single lady getting a tremendous crown of faithfulness, a glorious crown. And then you're going to see a line of missionary kids, more than 100 strong, lined up to wrap their arms around her and to tell her it was worth it. Thank you for making the sacrifice. That's the power of a Christian school teacher. That's the power of a Christian school that can transform a life. And that's who I am today because of the investment of an elementary school teacher in a corner of Africa.